with me, Joezine Butterfield. Um, so glad that you can join us today. Today, we will be talking about paraprofessionals and ideas and concerns and any challenges that you might have as a paraprofessional, things that you might be interested in us working on. As you know from the link that you received earlier today, I am running to represent you as the Vice President of the BUT and also recording secretary. So I thought it was very important that we spend time with each individual stakeholder and addressing some of the concerns that they may have. So I'm really glad that Joe is with us today and we'll have a chance to do that. To begin with, one of the main things that I think is important for us to focus on is our level of responsiveness when it comes to paraprofessionals and the support that us as an organization needs to give to this very important stakeholder group. Um, it's also disheartening to a certain extent that it has been paraprofessionals that for over 20 years, right, Joe, has not had a job description and also pay increase, right? And so with the few years that I've served on a negotiating team, that's been part of our job to try to make sure that paraprofessionals are compensated effectively for the job in which they do. So just tell us a little bit, Joe, about the issues, and then we can speak briefly about what we can do to maybe provide solutions or
the challenge is that we have not had a signed or agreed to job description. We've been working with many drafts, and depending on what school you are, schools have different job descriptions for this person. And so the positive thing about having a job description is that it holds us accountable and it holds the administrator accountable. And then we know clearly what our job is and what our goals are and how we can meet those goals for our students. Not having a job description leads to a lot of abuse of the person in that position because people have their personal opinions as to how they need to use you. And that doesn't allow us to be our best selves for our students when we've been moved wherever the need is, depending on that school's need. So first of all, we're there for the student. And we're there to help that student to be their best independent selves. And in order for us to do that, we need to be able to have guidelines as to where we're going and how we're going to get there for our students. And a job description holds you to that, and it keeps you in check and balances as to what your objective is and how to get to it.
So what are some of the things that have been tried since you've been the rep for paras to move this process along?
Well, 5 years ago, we had a Miss Chazia Calloway who came in, and she worked at that time. Dr. Evans was the acting commissioner. And they did see that we needed to have a finalized job description so that we can move forward as to what's best for our students. And we worked on that for the first 3 years. And then her contract was up, and then so she had moved back as she was not Bermudian. And then Dr. Evans let's put it this way, Dr. Evans was no longer in that position. And so that kind of froze where we were because we were making headways. We actually moved from a 2008 job description up into a 2016, 2017 job description with very few things left to work on it. Post those two persons, we had to start all over again. And so that was disheartening. We knew where we needed to go because we needed to meet with the President for Student Services. We needed to meet with the Commissioner of Education. We needed them to speak to the Permanent Secretary. We needed to have a conversation with the Minister of Education and for that to be taken to cabinet and voted on. And so this is where we are finalizing the job description because we had the PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers Bermuda. They did an assessment of roles and responsibilities. And with that, it had a grading system, and that grading system had a score, and that score determined your dollar value. And so that was a really good process because it was the first time we actually had a consulting firm validate our value and the work that we do. So we're in that process now that they've finished that. And so now we're waiting for the the Commission of Education and them to agree on a dollar value.
Mhm.
Um, the job description for the paraeducators has been completed,
Okay.
and the job description for the educational therapist assistants has two things that we need to agree on, and so we're going to hash it out this week. Um, but the thing is, having the pay
Mhm.
to connect to the job description, and so that's a challenge that we are at now.
Mhm.
Is we have the job descriptions now, we can have them signed off, but we don't have the pay that we required and that reflects that job description. As a matter of fact, we have been working underneath that job description all this time. We've just been paid to an old job description
Okay.
and evaluated to the new draft, the latest draft job description.
Got
So
it.
that's the
So I'm,
challenge
I'm
there.
glad you're able to hopefully shed some light to other members about the plight that paras have gone through. I know for me, being a member of the negotiating team and being a part of the process and trying to support you guys through that, it was very, and it has been a very challenging and disheartening experience in that I recognize that we have members who are really struggling to be able to make ends meet, but yet every day they still show up, they still bring the A game, and they do what they have to do. I remember very clearly after our last negotiating meeting when the powers presented. I don't know if you, but for the people that are listening or will listen in, a few months, probably in January, February, March, we had invited several of the powers to come and make a formal
Hmm.
presentation to the PSNT, which is the government sanctioned body that is going to negotiate between the government and unions. And also it was members of the ministry there, and the parents were there to make formal presentations about what's going on with them in regards to not having a job description, pay increase, and
Hmm.
all of that. What really struck me was how difficult it was for our parents financially to maintain all of the bills, the cost of living that is required in Bermuda for the type of job that they have. So, for those that don't know, because of a lack of a pay increase, paras have not increased, their wages have not increased, yet inflation goes up, the cost of living goes up, and paras are still having challenges financially. So, I say all that to say that at the end of that presentation, I had stood up, I don't know if you remember, Joe, and made a commitment to the paras to say that I was willing to do all that I could in order to assist in any way that I could. So what I wanted to do was to share with the members the proposal that I had sent to the union. The reason why I'm sharing it with the members is because this actual proposal has never been shared publicly with the members before, and it was written such so that members can actually take advantage of it and contribute to it. So as a result of what had transpired after negotiating meeting on April the 5th, I have written a proposal to the executive of the Bermuda Union of Teachers called My Brother's Keepers. And the proposal was such that the ministry, what was negotiated through the government was a 2% increase
Yes.
across the board for everyone as in regards to their wages. And my proposals suggested that 2% that came to the union, the 2% increase was actually set aside for paras.
Mhm.
And that every month that lump sum that would have been received, and in addition to that, every month paras there would be 2% put aside for paras, so that the month prior to Christmas, meaning November,
Mhm.
any paras that wanted to take advantage of that actual the money in those funds could be able to write in and do so. In addition, I had asked that the union would also seed the fund with at least $1,000 to get it started, and also make the members aware that this fund is available, and if individual members wanted to go ahead and contribute to it, they
Yes.
could. So I have not received anything official, but unofficially I was told that that was approved, and that those, I guess, the ball will start rolling on what should be done with that. So I just want to know if you knew any more than that, if you guys started to, no, nothing in particular. So that's something that, as the vice president, if I have the opportunity, that I'll definitely follow up on. Like I said, that was submitted in April. And so, not having anything official in my hand to say that that's what was approved when it was submitted to the executive, I'll definitely, one of my first items of business would be to follow up on that to make sure, because November is very
Very
soon
soon.
upon us, and it was just a way for me to try to extend a way that we can assist paras financially. And my intention is to continue with that whole, whether it's my brother's keeper fund or something similar, but just contribute around the idea of what are we going to do to support our paras, recognizing that it's been 20 years, that nothing has changed in regards to the job description and the pay increase. And I just want to be able to support and help the powers in that regard. So I know that you, as Joe Blow member, wouldn't know that, but even behind the scenes is something that I've always tried to do is advocate for powers. I've
Yes.
met with Joe on several occasions in trying to figure out what we're going to do to push that further. So that's